Deep beneath an Iranian mountain, hidden under almost 90 meters of rock and reinforced concrete, lies something that has quietly unsettled military planners around the world. It is not a nuclear warhead. According to Iran's own foreign minister, at least one of these weapons remains intact inside Iran's underground nuclear infrastructure. And more alarming still, Iran has reportedly begun examining it. This is not speculation or internet rumor. These claims come directly from senior Iranian officials, aligned with classified assessments inside the U.S. intelligence community, and have been reported across major international media outlets. The full impact of this incident is still unfolding, but what Iran may have gained from a single unexploded American weapon has the potential to alter military balances across the Middle East, and possibly beyond, for years to come. To understand how this happened, we need to rewind to June 22nd, 2025. On that night, 7 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers took off from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. These aircraft completed an 18-hour nonstop mission, refueling multiple times mid-air, maintaining radio silence, and remaining invisible to radar. Each bomb weighed more than 13 tons and was engineered for a singular mission: penetrate deep underground and destroy the most fortified nuclear facilities on Earth. The mission, known as Operation Midnight Hammer, was designed as a decisive strike. A 7th aircraft targeted the Natanz nuclear complex. At the same time, U.S. Navy submarines launched dozens of Tomahawk cruise missiles toward the Isfahan Nuclear Technology Center, while stealth fighters entered Iranian airspace to suppress air defenses. Iranian radar systems never responded. No missiles were launched. The operation appeared flawless. Soon after, U.S. leadership declared victory. President Trump announced that Iran's nuclear facilities had been completely destroyed. Allies echoed the claim. For a brief moment, it appeared the mission had succeeded exactly as planned. But intelligence assessments told a different story. Fordo was not an ordinary target. It was a nuclear fortress, buried nearly 300 feet beneath layers of rock specifically chosen to absorb and deflect extreme force. For years, American planners had questioned whether any conventional weapon could truly reach it. Yet early intelligence reviews suggested the bombs may not have achieved full penetration. A Defense Intelligence Agency assessment circulating quietly in Washington concluded that Iran's nuclear program had not been destroyed, only delayed. Not by years, by months. Publicly, officials disputed the report. Privately, concern spread. The reason may be simple physics. Penetrating weapons behave differently depending on underground geology. Many defense scientists have long argued that it is often easier to dig deeper than to build a bomb capable of reaching unlimited depths. Fordo, it seemed, was built on that assumption. Then came a statement that changed the conversation entirely. On February 8, 2026, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi revealed that unexploded American munitions remained inside Iran's nuclear facilities. He stated that the issue had been raised directly with the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency. His question was simple: was there any international protocol governing inspections of nuclear sites struck by foreign weapons? The answer was no. With no framework in place, Iran suspended all inspections. The facilities were sealed. And inside, according to Iranian officials, lay intact examples of some of America's most advanced military technology. The implications are enormous. The GBU-57 is not merely a large bomb. Its casing is constructed from highly classified alloys engineered to survive extreme impact forces. Studying its material composition could reveal how to replicate or defeat it. Its guidance systems are even more sensitive, designed to maintain precision after experiencing crushing impact stresses that would destroy conventional electronics. And it wasn't only the bunker busters. Dozens of Tomahawk cruise missiles were launched during the operation. Evidence suggests that some of them also failed to detonate. The Tomahawk is a cornerstone of U.S. military strategy, capable of flying low, avoiding radar, navigating complex terrain, and striking with extreme precision over vast distances. If an adversary learns exactly how it navigates, communicates, and avoids detection, that knowledge can be used not just to copy the weapon, but to neutralize it. Iran already fields cruise missiles that closely resemble Western designs. For decades, it has studied captured or recovered foreign military systems. An intact Tomahawk, or GBU-57, would represent an unprecedented intelligence windfall. This was not just a failed detonation. It may have been a strategic gift. What began as a demonstration of overwhelming power may instead mark a turning point, one where secrecy was compromised, technological advantage narrowed, and the balance of deterrence subtly shifted. And the most unsettling part is this: the world may not know the full consequences of that night for years to come. This would not be the first time the United States has seen something like this happen. In fact, Iran's own recent history should have served as a clear warning, one that every planner behind Operation Midnight Hammer should have remembered. Back in 2011, a highly classified American stealth drone, the RQ-170 Sentinel, crossed into Iranian airspace and never came home. Instead of being destroyed, the aircraft was brought down and recovered largely intact. Iran put it on display for the world to see, sending an unmistakable message. At the time, many Western analysts brushed it off, arguing that Iran lacked the technical ability to extract anything meaningful from the drone. They were wrong. In the years that followed, Iran's unmanned aerial vehicle program advanced at a pace that shocked intelligence agencies. Today, Iranian drones operate across multiple conflict zones, supplied to allies and proxy forces from Eastern Europe to the Red Sea. That captured American stealth drone was not the sole reason for Iran's progress, but it was a major accelerant. The lesson should have been learned then. A second warning came in 2018, during U.S. missile strikes in Syria. Several Tomahawk cruise missiles reportedly failed to detonate. Russian forces on the ground were able to recover and examine some of them before they could be destroyed. Inside U.S. intelligence circles, the incident was described as a serious technological compromise. Again, the risk was clear. Even the most advanced weapons can fail, and when they do, they become intelligence goldmines. Yet the same risk resurfaced over Iran. Weapons malfunction. Duds are unavoidable. Even flawless planning cannot eliminate physics, manufacturing tolerances, or battlefield uncertainty. And when a weapon fails inside one of the most sensitive military sites on Earth, the consequences can last generations. According to Iranian sources cited by domestic media in late 2025, that is exactly what happened next. Engineers within Iran's defense establishment reportedly disassembled the recovered GBU-57 bunker buster, analyzing it component by component. Replicating the bomb in its original form is impractical. At 13.5 tons, it is not something Iran can easily deploy. But replicating the ideas inside the weapon is another matter entirely. Iran's real interest, according to those reports, lies in the technology itself, the guidance logic, the penetration mechanics, the delayed detonation fusing, and the advanced materials used in the penetrator casing. These principles can be adapted, scaled down, and integrated into systems Iran already fields. One reported focus is Iran's Fatah hypersonic missile. Already capable of extreme speed and maneuverability, the Fatah was designed to defeat missile defense systems. If Iranian engineers succeed in combining hypersonic delivery with advanced Earth penetration technology derived from the GBU-57, the result would be something entirely new. An ultra-fast weapon capable of striking deeply buried targets once considered safe from anything but American attack. For Israel, this is a strategic nightmare. Much of Israel's military command infrastructure is hardened and underground, built specifically to survive conventional strikes. A hypersonic penetrator would force a complete reevaluation of those defenses almost overnight, but the GBU-57 may not be the most immediately useful prize. Through Hezbollah, Iran is also believed to have obtained access to a much smaller precision-guided weapon, the GBU-39B small-diameter bomb. Used extensively by Israel, the GBU-39B weighs only around 100 kilograms, making it far more adaptable to Iran's existing missile systems. When several of these bombs reportedly failed to detonate during regional operations, Washington reacted with urgency, formally requesting their recovery before they could fall into hostile hands. That diplomatic request alone reveals how seriously the United States views Iran's reverse engineering capabilities. Governments do not make formal appeals over failed munitions unless they believe the technology inside them could meaningfully alter the balance of power. For Iranian planners, the smaller bomb offers a faster payoff. Its guidance systems and penetration design could be fitted onto medium-range ballistic missiles, giving Iran a level of precision and bunker strike capability it does not currently possess. Combined with insights gained from Tomahawk cruise missiles and the larger GBU-57, Iran appears to be accelerating years, possibly decades, of weapons development through captured foreign technology. And once that knowledge exists, there is no way to erase it. This is the reality that unsettles American defense planners most. A physical weapon can be destroyed. Information cannot. There's no recall button for engineering intelligence. No remote kill switch. No covert recovery operation that can retrieve a bomb buried deep inside a fortified nuclear complex without igniting a wider war. All that remains is adaptation. The concern extends beyond Iran itself. U.S. officials have openly acknowledged fears that Iran may share what it has learned with Russia and China. Both countries have the industrial base, scientific talent, and strategic incentive to exploit such data. History offers clear precedent. The Soviet Union copied the American B-29 bomber with near-perfect accuracy after World War II. China has transformed its aerospace industry through extensive reverse engineering of foreign systems. If insights from America's most advanced bunker buster and cruise missiles reach Moscow or Beijing, the consequences will not be confined to the Middle East. They will affect underground military facilities worldwide, from Eastern Europe to the Pacific, where depth, rock, and concrete have long been assumed to provide safety. That assumption may no longer hold. While the world has been focused on statements and diplomatic fallout, something far more concrete has been unfolding inside Iran itself, and it has not gone unnoticed by defense analysts. Shortly after Foreign Minister Araghchi publicly acknowledged the presence of unexploded American munitions, Iran issued a NOTAM, a notice to airmen, shutting down sections of airspace over central Iran. Under normal circumstances, NOTAMs are issued during active military operations, missile tests, or major weapons trials. Iran, however, is not officially at war. That raises an uncomfortable question. What exactly required the airspace to be cleared? Analysts who closely monitor Iranian military activity point to the timing. The airspace closure came just as reports emerged of intensive reverse engineering work inside Iran's defense ministry, alongside claims that Iranian engineers were adapting lessons from the GBU-57 into new weapons designs linked to the Fatah hypersonic missile program. When those signals are viewed together, many experts believe the most likely explanation is that Iran has already moved beyond theory and into live testing of systems derived from the unexploded American weapons. If that assessment is correct, then within a year of Operation Midnight Hammer, Iran may already be flight testing or ground testing weapons influenced directly by U.S. technology. Technology that was supposed to end Iran's nuclear threat, not enhance its military capabilities. At the same time, international oversight has effectively vanished. Iran suspended cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency on July 2, 2025, just 10 days after the American strikes. Since then, inspectors have been denied access to Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. Tehran's position is clear. Inspections will not resume until a formal international protocol exists for visiting nuclear facilities that contain unexploded foreign ordnance. The problem is simple and alarming. No such protocol exists. The IAEA has acknowledged this publicly. As a result, the world has no verified visibility into what is happening inside Iran's most sensitive nuclear sites. No independent authority can confirm how much enriched uranium remains. No one can verify the condition of centrifuges. No one can assess the true extent of the damage, or the progress of parallel weapons research occurring alongside nuclear operations. Western intelligence agencies have added another layer of uncertainty: public statements from U.S. Officials indicate that prior to the strikes, there was no evidence Iran was actively enriching uranium to weapons-grade levels, nor proof of a finalized nuclear warhead program. Reporting by major Western outlets, citing classified assessments, suggests that much of Iran's enriched uranium stockpile survived the attacks. That means one of the central objectives of Operation Midnight Hammer, eliminating Iran's accumulated enriched material, may not have been fully achieved. And because inspectors remain locked out, the international community is left in an uncomfortable position, relying largely on Iranian declarations, at a moment when trust is at its lowest. This reality looks very different from the initial narrative of total destruction announced on June 22, 2025. There is no dispute that serious damage was inflicted. IAEA Director Rafael Grossi described the impact as severe. A Pentagon assessment released later in 2025 concluded that Iran's nuclear program had likely been delayed by roughly 2 years. That delay matters, but it is not decisive. It is not permanent, and it came with unintended consequences. Since the strikes, Iran has not paused. It has analyzed. It has dismantled. It has learned. And what it has learned comes from the most advanced conventional weapons the United States has ever deployed, sitting unexploded inside the very facilities they were meant to destroy. The irony is impossible to ignore. The GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator was engineered for one purpose: defeating deeply buried nuclear facilities like Fordow. 2 American officers reportedly devoted 15 years of their professional lives to understanding that single target. The bomb was designed, the mission was executed, the weapons were delivered. And now, that same weapon may have provided Iran with a blueprint to develop future systems capable of threatening the underground bunkers of America's closest regional ally. Fordow was built to resist attack. In the end, the mountain may not only have withstood the blast, it may have absorbed the technology. The Tomahawk cruise missiles that failed to detonate deepen the problem further. Iran has invested for years in improving its cruise missile arsenal, steadily narrowing the gap with Western precision strike capabilities, access to intact Tomahawk components, terrain-following navigation systems, low-altitude flight profiles, and guidance software refined through decades of combat, could allow Iranian engineers to dramatically improve missile accuracy, survivability, and resistance to electronic countermeasures. Iran already fields a large cruise missile inventory. Enhancing those systems is not a distant ambition. It is an immediate strategic goal, one that may now be significantly easier to achieve. For Israel, the implications are existential. Israeli defense planning rests on the principle of qualitative military superiority, the belief that technological dominance can offset numerical disadvantages. That advantage depends on precision strike capabilities and the assumption that Israel's own underground command centers remain beyond the reach of adversaries. If Iran succeeds in integrating advanced penetration technology with hypersonic delivery systems, those assumptions collapse. Underground facilities designed to survive conventional attack become vulnerable in ways they were not before June 2025. Every hardened bunker, every buried command node, every mountain-shielded installation must be reconsidered. Privately, American intelligence officials have been blunt about the stakes. The United States' urgent request for Lebanon to return unexploded Israeli precision munitions was driven by a single fear, that Hezbollah would transfer the technology to Iran. That fear exists because history has already proven Iran's ability to exploit captured systems, from the RQ-170 drone to recovered missile components in Syria. This concern is no longer speculative. On February 8, 2026, Iran's own foreign minister confirmed that unexploded American weapons remain inside Iran's nuclear facilities and tied Iran's refusal to allow inspections directly to their presence. It was not said quietly. It was not denied later. It was stated openly, a signal to adversaries and allies alike. And that signal suggests that the most lasting legacy of Operation Midnight Hammer may not be the damage it inflicted, but the knowledge it unintentionally delivered. The diplomatic side of this story is just as tangled and just as dangerous as the military one. While Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi was publicly discussing unexploded American weapons and blocked inspections, something quieter but equally important was happening behind closed doors. American and Iranian representatives were engaged in indirect talks in Muscat, Oman. These meetings marked the first diplomatic contact of this kind since the June 2025 conflict. Araghchi's comments about those talks were carefully chosen and deeply revealing. He said Iran does not trust the United States. He warned that deception remains a real possibility. And then he added a line that, in Iranian political language, carried enormous weight. Regardless of what happens in negotiations, every institution in Iran must continue performing its responsibilities. That sentence was not meant for diplomats. It was meant for engineers. It was a signal to Iran's defense ministry that nothing stops. Not talks, not promises, not diplomacy. The technical work continues. Weapons development continues. Reverse engineering continues. Negotiations may happen, but Iran's strategic programs do not pause for them. What the world is witnessing now is the slow, irreversible unfolding of one of the most consequential unintended technology transfers in modern military history. A weapon designed over decades, at staggering cost, to solve a very specific problem, did not fully solve that problem. And in failing to do so, it may have created a new one, a problem that cannot be fixed with airstrikes, sanctions, or political pressure. Once knowledge is extracted from physical components, it cannot be destroyed. You cannot bomb it. You cannot embargo it. You cannot negotiate it back. That knowledge now exists inside the minds, notebooks, and design software of Iranian engineers in a place it never existed before June 22nd, 2025. And what grows from that knowledge will shape the military balance of the Middle East for the next decade. Deep inside an Iranian mountain, the most powerful non-nuclear bomb America has ever built sits unexploded. Engineers have already accessed it. Its components have already been examined. Its principles have already been understood. The bomb never detonated, but its consequences are only beginning. To understand why this matters so much, you have to understand how modern military power really works. Advanced weapons are not just steel, explosives, and circuitry. They are condensed knowledge, physical containers for decades of research, testing, and classified innovation. When the United States built the GBU-57, it wasn't simply manufacturing a bomb. The program cost billions of dollars over its lifetime. But the true value cannot be measured in money. The true value is the knowledge that makes it work. That knowledge is now accessible to Iran in a way it never should have been. And the imbalance is stark. What cost the United States decades and billions to develop may cost Iran a fraction of that to replicate, because the hardware is already in their hands. The ripple effects extend far beyond Iran and Israel. The United States is locked in a long-term strategic competition with China across the Indo-Pacific. A cornerstone of American deterrence in that region is its ability to threaten hardened Chinese military infrastructure. Underground command centers, missile silos, submarine bases carved into rock. If Chinese engineers gain access to the design principles of the GBU-57 through Iranian cooperation, a scenario U.S. officials have openly identified as a major concern, the entire logic of deterrence changes. China would gain precise insight into American penetration limits, fusing behavior, guidance tolerances, and geological constraints. With that knowledge, it could design future facilities specifically to neutralize the very weapons meant to hold them at risk. That is not speculation. It is the predictable outcome of classified technology falling into the hands of a state aligned with one of America's primary strategic rivals. Russia faces a similar calculation in Europe. NATO's credibility depends in part on America's ability to threaten Russian military infrastructure if escalation occurs. Russia has invested heavily in deeply buried command bunkers and hardened launch facilities. If Moscow gains technical intelligence about the GBU-57 via Iranian channels, it can do two things simultaneously: improve the protection of its own facilities and accelerate countermeasures against American deep strike weapons. In both cases, the strategic balance shifts. and not in America's favor. This is the hidden cost of failed precision. When a weapon does not perform exactly as intended, it doesn't just fail to destroy a target. It risks empowering the very adversaries it was meant to deter. And once that knowledge spreads, it reshapes military planning far beyond the original battlefield. The damage done by Operation Midnight Hammer may ultimately be measured not by the craters it created, but by the capabilities it unintentionally enabled. Capabilities that will influence conflicts from the Middle East to Eastern Europe to the Pacific for years to come. The diplomatic side of this crisis is every bit as complex as the military one. While Iran's Foreign Minister Araghchi was publicly talking about unexploded ordnance and restricted inspections, U.S. and Iranian officials were quietly engaging in indirect discussions in Muscat, Oman. These talks marked the first diplomatic contact since the brief but intense war of June 2025. Araghchi's remarks offered little optimism. He openly stated that Iran does not trust Washington, warned that deception remains a real risk, and emphasized that Iranian institutions must continue their work regardless of diplomatic outcomes. In Tehran's political language, this was a clear signal. Negotiations change nothing on the ground. Technical development continues. Military research continues. Engineering work does not pause. What the world is witnessing is the gradual emergence of one of the most serious unintended technology transfers in modern warfare. A weapon designed over decades at extraordinary cost to solve a single strategic problem did not fully achieve its objective. And in failing to do so, it may have created a new and far more dangerous challenge. Once advanced components are recovered and analyzed, the knowledge they contain cannot be destroyed. It becomes embedded in the minds, notes, and designs of engineers. Knowledge cannot be bombed away. It cannot be sanctioned into disappearance. It cannot be erased at the negotiating table. From the moment those components were accessed, that knowledge began to exist in a place it never had before. Deep beneath an Iranian mountain, an unexploded American bunker buster now represents far more than a failed strike. Engineers have already examined it. Systems have already been studied. Design concepts are already being adapted. A weapon meant to eliminate a nuclear threat may instead have provided the foundation for a new generation of missiles, warheads, guidance systems, and hardened strike capabilities that will shape military planning across the Middle East for years to come. To understand the magnitude of this moment, it is essential to recognize what modern weapons truly represent. They are not just steel and explosives. They are physical containers of decades of research in materials, science, electronics, software, and physics. A system like the GBU-57 is not simply manufactured. It is the result of billions of dollars and thousands of engineers solving extraordinarily complex problems. While each bomb carries a multi-million-dollar price tag, its real value lies in the classified engineering principles that make it work. Those principles are now exposed in a way they were never intended to be. The strategic consequences extend far beyond Iran and Israel. In the Indo-Pacific, U.S. deterrence against China depends heavily on its ability to threaten hardened underground facilities. If Chinese engineers gain insight into American deep penetration weapons through secondary access to Iranian analysis, the balance shifts. Beijing would gain a clearer understanding of penetration limits, fusing systems, and geological constraints, allowing it to design facilities specifically to counter U.S. capabilities. This risk is not speculative. It is a predictable outcome when advanced military technology is compromised. A similar logic applies in Europe. NATO's deterrence posture relies in part on America's ability to hold Russian military infrastructure at risk. If Moscow gains technical insights indirectly through Iran, it can accelerate defensive adaptations while refining its own underground systems. In every case, the advantage shifts away from those who built the weapon and toward those who studied it after it failed. Back in the Middle East, the strategic landscape has fundamentally changed since June 22, 2025. Iran demonstrated that it could absorb the most powerful conventional strike the United States has ever conducted and remain intact. Not only did it survive, it emerged with access to technology it never possessed before. While nuclear scientists were killed and enrichment facilities damaged, Iran's industrial base remains functional. Missile programs continue. Engineering expertise endures. And the country's technical community has gained insights that no sanctions regime could have prevented. For Israel, the outcome is deeply unsettling. Years of preparation went into this moment. Joint U.S. Israeli exercises rehearsed similar scenarios well before the strikes occurred. Intelligence coordination, logistics, and operational planning were exhaustive, yet the result was not the permanent strategic solution Israel needed. Iran's nuclear knowledge did not disappear with damaged facilities. New scientists are being trained, infrastructure is being rebuilt, and defense engineers are now working with lessons learned from a weapon that was supposed to eliminate the threat entirely. Ultimately, this is a story about the limits of military force in an era where information itself is the most enduring weapon. Facilities can be destroyed, equipment can be replaced, but scientific principles cannot be erased. The physics of enrichment, the mathematics of guidance systems, and the realities of engineering do not vanish under bombardment. Operation Midnight Hammer was bold and technically extraordinary. It represented the peak of conventional military capability deployed against some of the most hardened targets on Earth. But buried beneath an Iranian mountain may be the beginning of the next chapter, one in which a weapon designed to end a danger instead accelerates its evolution. The bomb failed to detonate, and in that failure, it may have reshaped the strategic balance in ways that are only now becoming visible. The real consequences are unfolding quietly, in laboratories, workshops, and notebooks, and the world is only beginning to grasp what that means.